Hello everyone, I guess it's time for another unedited, unplugged, heart-to-heart conversation here for several reasons. Number one, I have been getting so many comments and questions on FWAMI, Florida Unites Against Mandated Insanity, and I found the need for a bit more explanation because many people consider the movement I'm working on, we are together working on, as something that is limited to all these COVID craze, COVID shenanigan. And that we are gonna get together, unite, and basically put an end to all this insanity, at least per state. In this case, Florida. But FWAMI is much more than that, because those of you who watched my latest video, my previous video, it's up there, still is up there on YouTube, you know that I have been talking about how, whatever you want to call it, the deep state, the federal government, the central beast, has been implementing these tyrannical plans from their blueprint and the measures and the associated laws and mandates back to back since 9/11, September 11, 2001, okay? And as you see in that video, for 9/11, it was the terrorism and the boogeyman. They are all out there to kill us and putting all these TSAs, unconstitutional pat down of all of us. Because based on what they put together with Patriot Act, basically they said that all of us, every single person here in the United States, are suspected terrorists, okay? So it is not something that they need to implement Fourth Amendment and have warrant or justifiable cause to put us through all these physical pat-downs and search, or the fact that they can have NSA, National Security Agency, 24/7 monitor all our phone calls, all our emails, all our communications online, which they have been doing since 9/11. Meaning all of us have been treated, okay, as suspected terrorists. Now, how long ago was this Patriot Act and all the 9/11 shenanigan that we went through? We have 20 years, 2 decades past that point, right? Now, remember how they put not mandates, but law, because the entire US Congress voted for it, on removing our shoes for going through security in the airports. Because they had one failed case of failed supposed terrorist who tried to use his shoes to ignite some sort of a bomb, okay? Remember that case 20 years ago? Then they put this law that says you go through the airport security, you have to bend over and take off your shoes, every single one of you, whether you're a suspect or not, because actually you're all suspects. Fast forward 20 years, we are still doing it. It has become the normalcy because we have been conditioned, we have been trained to do just that. We go to the airport and immediately that switch gets to be turned on, like robots, like artificial intelligence. This is what we are supposed to be doing. We walk, stand in the line, right? Take off our shoes, put it on the belt, and while we are taking off our shoes, we are bending, right? Before the tyranny, before the kings, before the guards, before the Nazis, whatever you want to call them, go ahead and call them. We bend over, we the submissive, all suspected terrorists, right? Take off our shoes, we put it there, then we go through these x-ray machines, right? We go inside, we hold our arms, get to be jabbed with the x-ray, zap, 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 right? And then we come the other way and we're like, whew, thank God nobody did anything more to us. Because sometimes we may set off that machine and with that, we go through extra violations. They pat you down, your private parts, everything from behind, from front, from the sides, fingering and whatnot. 20 years. And I was just talking about it with my daughter and telling her that this was not the case. When we traveled, we could travel with our dignity intact because she was born in 2008. So this is the only way of travel she has ever experienced. And she has traveled a lot. She has been to dozens of countries, also internally here in the US. But what I'm trying to say is, look at this, 20 years later, we are still doing it. What they put in place with these pretexts, whether organic, yeah, right, or artificially induced pretext, created pretext, they plug in these tyrannical measures, not temporarily, not for a certain period of time to say, oh, this is the heightened alert because we are under this code red for terrorism. So during these 6 months, we have to do this. We haven't had code red or code orange. We haven't had any codes really since 9/11, at least in the past whatever years. No, when they put it in place, they put it in place for good. When they take away things from us, our rights, right? Our liberties, our freedom, it's never temporary. It's never been in the history of mankind. When you give it to them, okay, when they persuade you through their mainstream media and through your representatives, aka whores in the Congress, right? That is it. You have signed off permanently, gone. Bye-bye. Adios those rights for good. Unless we, the people, go and take it back. Now, I want you to research and see how many cases you can find or how many instances you can find after 20 years, during these 20 years since 9/11, people in the United States, I'm not going to talk about other countries, we have this thing at least now in theory called Constitution. This is supposed to be the law of the land, right, for the United States. See in the past 10 years, how many times at least people here have tried to really challenge these tyrannical police state 9/11 Patriot Act laws here in the United States. Basically, you'll find none. Initially, this is 18, 19 years ago, yes, some people went to courts, kangaroo courts, all the way up to the kangaroo Supreme Court, the Supreme Kangaroo Court, right? Trying to challenge this on NSA, challenge that with the TSA pat-downs, X-ray exposures for all the screening in the airports, but then, I don't know, everything failed. Well, because of course, hey, duh, it is going to fail. It's kangaroo courts. These are kangaroo courts. They are put there to make sure that these types of attempts are failed. That is their main purpose. And those judges that are appointed to those seats are appointed because they are part of the system that says, we are here to take away rights. Not to protect rights, not to defend rights, but to make sure that people don't get their rights back when we take them away, right? Yes, 20 years later, we have all those and they have become part of our lives. This has become the way of life for us. Well, same thing with this COVID craze, with this COVID shenanigan. A lot of things they have been insane stuff they have been doing, practicing, putting in place as mandates. The core gist of them are here to stay. They have set precedents, okay? That's how you refer to, even when you go to courts, right? Kangaroo courts. What happens is they say, okay, with this case and this ruling, this sets precedents. Oh, they have seen, okay, handful of awful New World Order evildoers. They have seen that with this COVID shenanigan, they can get away with anything they say. They can say, wear mask, wear double mask, wear triple mask, don't hug your grandchildren, don't hug your parents. Social isolations. In some cases, lock your kids in the room and don't have contact with your own children at home. Shut down a school, shut down businesses, or force them to shut down their own businesses because they can't operate, so only a handful of businesses can operate, can go on, you know, because survival of the fittest, mega corporations, right? The ones who are in cahoot with the federal beast, they are geared, designed to stay. And they are these pesky little independent mom and pop shops, small to medium businesses. Let's eliminate them. Let's have this homogeneous way of life that we want. We have 4, 5, or 6 companies that produce everything or sells us everything we need, you know, clothing, it's our food, okay? And let's not have things that makes homogeneity more difficult, okay? The American way of life, it is anti-capitalism, let me put it this way, because if you have lived, I have, right, under communism, I have lived in Russia, I have lived in Azerbaijan, that's the way of life, you know. There is 1 or 2 producers that produce all the food stuff under, you know, in partnership with government. There were no choices, right? There were no mom and pop shops. That was not allowed, or production, right? Because they wanted everyone, all the people under communism, wear exactly the same clothes or same masks, eat exactly the same thing at the same price. And basically for everyone to live the same way, do the same thing, and if there were any exceptions, they were immediately dealt with imprisonment, okay? Gulag, Siberia, okay, you know what I'm talking about. Well, that's exactly the path. That's exactly the path that they have been carving, they have been putting in place, and unfortunately, the majority have been just walking the path set for them before that, right? Set for them and put right in front of them, without questioning, without saying, first of all, this path doesn't even fit in any way or any form our law of land, you know, our Constitution. But they are telling you, the mainstream media, they are telling you through the mainstream media, they are telling you through their kangaroo courts that it's absolutely justifiable. It is absolutely justified to override this pesky thing called Constitution, when a handful of people within the central beast with a plan that is 100% against this nation, against the way of life for this nation, against this nation's land, law of the land, right, Constitution, they say it's okay. We can tell you that you have to take jabs, aka flu shots, aka vaccination, and you have no right to oppose it or say no, because we are telling you you don't have a right to your body, okay? Speaking of that, how ironic is that, you know, all those people who have been and are pro-abortion, what do they use? Their famous, infamous, constantly used line, choice, right? Freedom of choice, my body, my choice. Now, those same people are the ones who are saying, My body, your choice, government. Meaning, you tell me what to put in it in terms of forced vaccination, right? You tell me how to cover up and how much oxygen intake I have. You tell me how my body needs to be distanced from another body, okay? But what happened to my body, my choice? Interesting, isn't it? It's really ironic. Now, I usually end up preaching to the choir because I know those of you who tune in, follow this channel and watch and listen to me, you are not among those who are sitting on the fence, or they may be converted, they don't know, they're undecided. I don't have any of those. In fact, I have made it clear that I am no longer in this business of what I used to be, informing people, aka educating people, help wake people up. We are past that point, okay? In fact, there is too much information. Trust me, you can find so much information despite all their censorship on why and how masks are so harmful, and they don't even prevent the transmission of this sorts of flus, okay? Viruses. It's still out there. You can find it. Anybody who wants, they can find it. Or how many of these tests that they give people to determine whether they are positive or not, They have this percentage of accuracy that's not reliable. All that information for anybody who really wants to know, anybody who's really interested, is out there. So no, I'm no longer in this business of I'm an analyst, I'm going to tell you about this, I'm going to explain you to this. That is done with. That has been done with, so it's been almost a year. Time for action. Enough of we're gonna sit and yak, and we're gonna sit and yak, and we're gonna sit and inform, and we're gonna sit and get informed, and we're gonna analyze it to death. Then there's gonna be more stuff. We sit down, yak, and analyze it to death. That era, over. It should be over. It's time for action. Now, if you watched my previous video, I talked about, and this is why I'm talking about, FWAMI is not only about these insane mandates and in Florida what we're going to do and what we are trying to do. No. It's so much more than that. As I said in my last video, immediately after this, maybe there will be this little break time of 3 months once the mask and all this stuff are kind of put aside, but with mandatory vaccination, if you want to travel, if you want to obtain a job, if you want to send your kids to school, so they would say, yeah, we are not taking that choice away from the people. They can say no to vaccination. However, by saying no, we want to make sure they are punished in every way possible so that they can't even live regular life. They cannot travel, they cannot send their kids to school, and they cannot obtain many of the jobs available out there, because we're gonna make sure that all those things are tied in with these mandatory flu shots. Okay, this experimental flu shot, vaccination, mandatory medication. Yeah, that's how they're gonna present it. That's how they always present. It's not really mandatory. You have a choice, say no. Pooh, go get bankrupt, you can't get a job, you're gonna be unemployed, your kids can't go to school, etc., etc. So there will be a little break of some sort, and then they're gonna go into Second Amendment, because that has been on their list. We know that. Anybody who's been paying attention knows that. And with that, they need to have PreTax, okay? They need to create PreTax. I'm not saying necessarily faking it, but all they have to do is what they did with this COVID shenanigan, right? They can get all their pseudo-alternative medias and all the media, which is all of them, 100% is in their hands, under their control, to start reporting the number of gunshot wounds and deaths as a result of gunshot wounds. Because trust me, if right now, If you would take CNN, NBC, right? Any of them, Fox, all of them, and 24/7 report and then show in the hospital this person who's bleeding, and then is dying, and then there is this whole funerals things and the loved ones crying for the existing, right? Crime, gunshot related deaths or injuries. Within a week, you would create this illusion for people that I can't even get out of the house. There are people dropping dead, and they are getting injured. Some of them spinal injury, that they are paralyzed from neck down, because there is this huge epidemic, right? Epidemic of gunshot, gun crimes. I can't send my kids to school. There is this gun that they can't make it happen. It's a psychological model that has worked for them. With 9/11, it worked for them. With this flu, COVID, it has worked for them, right? It works. It always works. You plug it in through the media, and within a week or two, you will have Americans, majority of the Americans, not all Americans, in this panic mode, pass the law, ban guns, and go to everyone who owns guns and forcibly remove their guns, whether they are legally obtained, licensed, with permit, doesn't matter, because the epidemic of all these gunshot wounds and gunshot-related deaths calls for it. We are all dying. They can make it happen. They can make it happen. I guarantee you, and they will make it happen, because that has been in the plans. And as I mentioned in my previous video, it's a 2-minute long video. Please watch and share, not to inform, to get people wake up and take action. Okay, we are not in the business of informing, educating people. No, time is past time to take actions, and I'm going to get to that. Homeschooling. I am homeschooling because the school system in the United States and in Europe too, I'm not saying it's only here, in fact, around the world, right, has become the method of indoctrination. For whom? For the same ones that have brought us the 9/11 and Patriot Act and the COVID, and the ones who are going to take away the Second Amendment. It is them I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yes. So, homeschooling is getting in the way. Currently, in the United States, we have at least 2 to 3 million children who are being homeschooled. It's a wonderful thing. I started doing it. I'm a newbie in that. I'm not going to send my child to this indoctrination camp where she's going to go and say, okay, my name is this and I'm a girl. And they're going to say, no. Your gender is X until age Y. Then you decide if you're a girl or you're a boy, and all sorts of things, the COVID-related things, the terrorism-related things, They are creating snitches now in a school, indoctrinating kids so they can go and snitch on their own parents. You know about that. I don't have to inform you about that. You know what I'm talking about, right? So my kids being homeschooled among millions of other children in the United States of America. And it's a very unique thing to the United States of America, because I have lived in many places, okay? I have traveled at least 48 countries in really travel, not like taking a cruise or some vacation for a week, not that kind. And they don't allow you to homeschool. I mean, that is illegal. Turkey, okay? Until grade 10, you have to attend school, whether it's private schools or the government schools, because the private schools are also under the guidance of the same government, okay? They're a little bit more luxury, but other than that, they have to abide by the same laws, tyrannical laws. And it's the case all over the Middle East and everywhere, right? Except the private schools are a bit more luxury, classrooms are nicer, you know, and etc. Nicer cafeterias. And when you tell them that, oh yeah, I'm homeschooling my kid, they're like, that's illegal. I mean, how could you do that? I said, no, you do that and my kid can take the exams and I can teach her and I can get her, let's say, some tutoring when needed, right? So they're illegal. The concept is so strange to them. Homeschooling. Well, homeschooling is a major threat for, the same people. You have millions of kids in the United States, 2 to 3 million children who are growing up, getting education outside their indoctrination camp. Well, they present a problem. It's not like 5 or 10,000 that you can say statistically it's not significant, right? We are talking millions, and that is a problem, dude. It needs to be dealt with. They are going to deal with it. Many of you, I'm sure, not paying attention. I am a research buff, okay? That was my career. That has been my job. I read and read and research. The number of studies undertaken and funded by the central beast or their bosses, you know, Bill Gates and Bezos and the Rockefellers and Soros, the same gang, you know, the ones who are the real bosses of our central beast, the government, you know, and our whores in USA Congress. And they have undertaken so many scholarly, not regular, it's a scholarly studies to show, okay, that homeschooling, it's a horrible crime because it allows parents to abuse their children big time, sexually, psychologically, physically, mentally, all of the above. And because these kids are not in the school and they can't tell anybody else or they can't be seen that they have a scratch or a bruise or something, it is chosen method by big time abusers, right? Oh, I have to add that to that. Abusers, white, supremacist, right-wing, holy roller, redneck, you know what I'm talking about. It's that who they're going to designate as the major abusers. They have been doing it for 8 to 10 years now because they want to get that overturned, okay? Saying we are passing, and they can pass the law like this federally. USA Congress. They can pass any law they want. It doesn't matter how much the law would butcher our constitutional, our Constitution. It doesn't matter. It has never mattered. Show me when it has mattered. Passing laws that are 100% unconstitutional, right? Constitution never gets in their way. It's getting in their way with this homeschooling thing. They're going to pass it. Now, we're going to be in the same situation we are with this. We're going to have some states, most definitely there are going to be some red states, and there are people, there are legislators saying, no, we're going to resist it, but they're going to do it. Just the way they have been doing with this. Look, Florida, it's been a state that has been resisting, but everywhere I go, they're saying you have to wear your mask. The distance thing, even after the governor said nobody can fine you for not observing the distancing in your businesses, etc., they're doing it anyway. They have so many Karens here with their husbands, they are like gangs and they're violent and they're going to places, and if they see that person having even their mask down here, they are physically and verbally attacking them. I suffered one only 3 days ago on Thursday. I'll tell you about that later. But what I'm trying to tell you is they are not going to be done. So to say that FWAMI, if you go to our website, fwami.org, you will see the word COVID used maybe once or twice, and we have dozens of pages under our website. Because it's not only about COVID. Insane mandates, insane laws goes for everything insane. everything that is anti-constitution. Insane laws and mandates apply to their coming attacks and mandates and laws on gun ownership, Second Amendment, okay? Insane mandates and laws that I'm talking about applies 100% when they come, which is coming very soon, against homeschoolers, to ban it, ban it, ban it. You can't have homeschooling within a tyrannical system, and this is a tyrannical system. Anybody who believes that they are living in some free society where there is a system of checks and balances, that there is this law, this mother of all laws under Constitution guaranteeing your rights, where have you been? Please, ding dong, wake up. Hey, rise and shine. Look, when was the last time you see, even look at the first 10 amendments and see how many of them really holds. None. When you get the president of the nation being censured, okay? When you get journalists being openly censured and say First Amendment doesn't apply to you, there is no First Amendment. Look. Okay, so they're coming for all those. This vaccination, forced medication, mask, distancing, shutting down mom and pop shops and the businesses, all that, they have done it in less than a year, okay? They have put their tyrannical blueprint plans on fast track. Now, with that, this is not the time to have all the yakety-doodly-doo sessions. I see still there people are doing all these podcasts, telling each other how bad things are and giving stats and reading. We are at this point where our nation is very clearly, very precisely divided into two halves, okay? There is one half, and that happens to be majority, bear with me, that take their constitution, their rights, their freedom, their liberties, their American way of life serious, okay? And there is this other half that don't. And the half that doesn't, cannot stand the idea of the ones who do get anything they want, okay? It's a one-way street. They are in the tyrannical ruling position, seat, okay? Let me put it that way, seat. Now, maybe once upon a time, we could find ways, and we tried to find ways for reconciling, okay, reconciliation of our differences, philosophical differences, right? Conservative, libertarian, whatever, Republican, liberal, left wing, right wing, middle wing, no wing, right? We've always had that. That's nothing new, except the coup makers, the ones that invaded, who have invaded, okay? Who have invaded our nation, there in the Capitol, Washington, D.C., and their bosses, the Rockefellers and the Gates and the Soros and the Hewlett-Packards and the Bezos, Zuckerbergs, and let's say dozens of Uber billionaires, they're saying, no, there's going to be only one way. It's not that we can live side by side in the same city, in the same state, with our differences and still get along. That has ended. It's either or. It's a clean break. It's time for a clean break, okay? It is time for a very clean break, precise clean break. Meaning, this is the time that we all of us who are constitutionalists, okay? Who are for the once upon a time American way of life for hundreds, 200, 300 years that are totally being taken away. We need to split, and they need to split from us. That's the only way. There is no other way, okay? Now, look, I'm not advocating for violence. I'm saying we have to do this peacefully, but determinedly, okay? Not this wishy-washy way going through our legislators. There is no time for that. The situation, okay, the extreme situations call for extreme measures. That is now. This is the extreme situation, the state of our nation, right? We need to have quickly separate with sanctuary states, sanctuary constitutional states, people like me, people like you who are for viewing this, tens of millions of Americans who believe in parental rights, who believe in First Amendment, who believe in Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment, 10th Amendment, who actually take their being American. Okay, if you are born here, you don't have to take this oath. I was not born here. I took my oath, and I take my oath seriously, very seriously, and I will until the day I die. I did not take that oath lightly. Okay, here's what it says. Here's what it says. As part of my U.S. citizenship oath, I said, I hereby declare on oath that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Now, people who take office take this oath too. Okay, so, well, I mean, that was not ha-ha, but it was, there are people who take the oath, but they don't take it seriously. It's just like a window dressing thing. You just say it. I take mine seriously. And those of you who didn't have to take this oath, you still operate under this. This is the real law of our land, our country, the United States Constitution. And it calls for defending, okay, defending our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, our domestic enemies are very clear and precisely indicated. No one in this nation right now who's constitutionalist, who is pro-United States Constitution, would come and beg to defer and say, no, they are not. They are the enemies, okay? This is not some sort of a hyperbole being drama queen or radicalized way of saying things. They are the enemies. Now, by default, they are also serving our foreign enemies, okay? The biggest winner right now, I don't consider China to be, something that I have something against, but it's very clearly out there. They are serving right now one of our top foreign enemies, China. This race for becoming a global power. Well, you don't become a global power by doing what they have been doing, the decision makers, the central beasts, the enemies in Washington, D.C. They are doing exactly what needs to be done to never be any kind of power and be easily taken over by any foreign power, and in this case, China. But let's not even go there for right now. I want to keep this one not too long, not more than 45 minutes, 1 hour. But our enemies, the enemies of our Constitution, they are no longer hiding. They have made it, they have gone to the overt stage of being the enemy. For several decades, the same enemies, they were around, right? They were doing things behind the scenes through the academia indoctrination camp, right? With many of those universities, they went through this 30, 40 years period of indoctrinating, brainwashing, right? Creating this gang for their site, which is the other less than 50% that I'm talking about, okay? They are following and abiding by the enemy's mandates and laws and tyrannical practices. Therefore, they are part of the enemies. Now, I know many people are going to yell and scream and say, I'm saying some radical things. I am not. It is so clear, crystal clear. If I were one of those people who love to engage in wishful thinking and sugarcoating things, maybe I would have found a more poetic, better way, a milder way, turn the other cheek kind of a way to talk about this. But this is not time for that. This is not the time for that. We are way past that state. We can't sugarcoat this. We need sanctuary constitutional states in the United States of America. The time is ripe for it. It is urgent that we do it now. We start doing it now. And it starts with 1 or 2 or 3 sanctuary states, right, for our Constitution. The American way of life without the enemies, right? And it's going to have domino effects. And I tell you why it will have domino effect, because it's very similar to the invisible hand of market, within capitalism, saying you put good products out there, right? And the price point is right, you have increased demands, then someone else is going to come, they're going to try to emulate that, right? They're going to try to do the same thing, but better and even cheaper, right? Then everybody's going to go there, because that is natural, that principle of capitalism. It gets to be determined, our demand and where we go to, based on the quality and the price. Well, the same thing is true for our states. Look, during this insane COVID shenanigan 1 year, right? How much migration has been taking place? Where are people going? Let's talk about even the enemy, okay? The ones who are part of the enemy camps, right? The ones, many of them, not all, in New York and Massachusetts and California. Are we seeing influx, people going to those states where they have the highest level of tyranny, right? The left, the tyranny, you know what I'm talking about. No, we are seeing the opposite. They hate us because it's pure, poisonous, venomful hatred. And I will give you one of the examples. Just the other day, 2 New York transplant women, Karens in their early 60s, they physically and verbally attacked me for not wearing my mask in this store, supply store, where I was at least 10 feet away. It was not a crowded store. They were wearing theirs. Now they broke the distancing mandate here in Naples, Florida. And they came and one of them started jabbing me with her long manicured Karen finger, saying, "You are killing the rest of us, you selfish people, by not wearing masks." I was escorted out of the store because the clerk joined them too. These 2 women, they left hell. New York, hell. There's no other way to describe it. Hell, right? Where did they come? They came to a red state. They came to a state where majority of people are conservative, right? Red state. They came from their blue state to this red state because they couldn't stand living in the middle of hell. And they are out there attacking physically, verbally, and there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of them in Florida. Our way of life, what they came for. They want us to be all like that, because if we are all hell, hell won't be like hellish as much, because hey, everything is relative in this world, right? You need to have paradise so that you can see how horrible it is in hell. But if you don't have paradise, hell is a way of life. It's normal. Welcome to communism. That's what they tried to do. I lived there 2.5 years, right? We can't live in one place. We can no longer try to put those differences aside and live side by side, because they are telling us we can't live the way we want to live. We can't homeschool our children. We can't decide about what we're going to put in our body with vaccination, flu shots, medication. We can't decide how we're going to dress, how we're going to breathe. We have to go, how much distance we have to put between us and our grandparents. They are telling us this is going to go way above and beyond communism. This is like the ultimate form of communism that didn't even get to come to fruition over there. They want to ace it in such a way, our enemies, that it would be unprecedented. Going from capitalism, the land of free, the USA, to the top tyrannical communism way of living. They have made it clear. They are telling you, actually. They are not hiding it. They are out there. Listen to their speeches. Listen to their speeches. They tell you they want you to raise your kids a certain way, the way they tell you you should raise your kids. Okay? They want your kids to be educated a certain way, the way they say your kids should be educated. Your right to own guns, that they say you should not have that right. That U.S. citizenship oath, that's the domestic enemy. Those are the domestic enemies. I took a pledge, took an oath to defend my nation, my constitution against. Well, I am not advocating for any kinds of violence. It may come to that, because I don't believe the enemy and the ones in the enemy camp are going to let that kind of a democratic freedom take place, even though our 10th Amendment guarantees it. The moment you have one or two states saying, you know what, we are going to live the American way and based on our Constitution, the United States of America's Constitution, these tyrants not gonna say, no, you can't do it, but fine, I am going to continue being tyrannical in these states, you do it. No, they're gonna do things. Well, we have to be prepared for that, of course. But we are not instigating violence. They are the instigators of violence and tyranny. We are not. But self-defense, defending our Constitution and defending ourselves, well, is incumbent upon us. Not only because our Constitution, our being American, dictates that, but because of the survival and because of our faiths and because of our moral codes, the way we want to raise our kids, the way we want to live, unless we are willing to give up on all that, we have to fight for it. Sanctuary states, it will have domino effect because, think about it. Think about it, people. You have 5, 10, 15 states, constitutional capitalism, with all our rights intact, where parental rights are intact, right? Schools are operating accordingly, not based on the federal grants and federal bribery pressuring them to indoctrinate them in communism and being degenerate, right? What do you think is going to happen? Just from the market perspective, the invisible hand of market, you're gonna see many people, most of the people, at least people who haven't gone so kooky under the enemy indoctrination, they want to leave their states, their blue states, and they want to come to the sanctuary states. Because, I mean, that's exactly what they're doing right now, right? But it's going to be in a much, much larger scale. Come on, you know what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about, it's our nature, it's human nature. We, of course, gravitate towards liberties, freedom, work ethics, having faith, decency, believing in decency, being America, living it the American way. That's why they are going to try to fight it. Because you do that, you create those models, well, of course. Even the most despicable Karen of the Karens, okay, They're going to say, well, I want to be part of this. Please let me in. I don't want to let them in. Let me put it that way. Somebody said, because they're violating this distancing mandate, have pepper spray because we are absolutely entitled to self-defense. So when these Karens from New York and New England, they are coming to Florida and they are coming and jabbing you and sticking their fingers in your face, violating your space and on your mask or lack of masking, just go home, Yankee. Go live in hell. You don't come here and turn this place to hell. And you don't tell me how to raise my child. And you won't tell my kids. You will never be given the right, because I will not send my kids to those indoctrination degenerate camps called public schools today. I'm not going to have you mess with her psyche and mind and say, you think you're a girl, but you may be wrong. Think about it. You may be neither. You may not even be human. They can do anything. These are young, impressionable minds. And together with their media and their Hollywood, how many kids will stand a chance being in that to remain what I want and what I believe my child needs to be as a human being, as a girl, as a female? I'm proud to be a woman. No, nobody's going to force her to get vaccinated. It's voluntary. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I am not going to go and get some experimental flu shot put in me because somebody says so. I have my critical thinking ability. Okay, folks, let's not make this longer. For me, with this petition, okay, because petitions are lame, I'll be the first to tell you, this is symbolic. Of course, every signature signing on our petition saying, Governor, prohibit these local government officials in Florida from issuing and implementing insane mandates, automatically each signature, each petition goes to the governor. It's symbolic. First of all, we are going on the record and letting him know, right? This is what we want. This is what we are demanding, and we are going on the record with this. It is on record. Its action starts with that. It's an action. However little. I know petitions are lame. I'll be the first one preaching that, okay? If I were in the preaching business, I would tell you, don't waste your time with petitions. But this is a catalyst for me. The database, membership database where you join, it's uniting us who want to live the American way. Uniting us, the constitutionalists, we need to be united. Look, they have the mainstream media. They have the social media. They canceled out my account of 55,000 followers on Twitter, right? Well, how else are we going to be in touch with each other? We know there are tens of millions of us who exist and millions of us here in Florida. But if we don't get connected methodically, okay, there's no way we can get anything done. You want sanctuary states? I want sanctuary states. Well, come and join me. Florida, South Dakota, North Dakota, Idaho, we are ripe. We're going to be the first 4 or 5. Then there's going to be dozens of others. It's going to single out maybe 7 to 10 states. And the enemy, despite being the enemy, they're going to be so envious of our states, the American way of life. Let them live under their own communistic, tyrannical regimes. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want my kids to be part of that. I don't want to live a life like that. I have lived under tyrannies. This is the time for divorce. I have been married for over 30 years, okay? Oh, it hasn't been all breezy. It hasn't been all easy. But I took my marriage oath, okay, my pledge seriously. You make it work, unless there are circumstances where you have one person being very violent. It's a matter of life and death, right? There are things, diseases like chronic gamblers, alcoholism, etc. There are situations where there is no other way. You cannot go through this reconciliation of things, right? Then it calls for divorce. It's self-preservation. Well, this is that situation. I know some of you are going to say, well, this is like balkanization of the United States of America, and our enemy is going to love that. And I'm telling you, in response to that, the alternative, not doing it, is the 100% destruction, graveyard of our entire Constitution and the entire belief system in the American way of life. If they have taken away this much in 1 year, you're going to sit back and say, hopefully things will get better. 3 years from now, we're going to go and vote, and maybe this time our vote will count, and hopefully when it counts, it will be something different. Come on, we have passed that stage. Don't put your hope on that. There is no hope in there. It's time to divorce. It's time to separate. Karens should not be here dictating how we live when we see what they have done with the places they lived in, right? It's the start. Now, I know the enemy has been making fun of me saying, oh yeah, well, you and your 2,500 members, you're going to do all this? I tell you what. Last December, there was only one of me, early December. December 2020, towards Christmas, there were 5 of us. Fast forward 2.5 months, 2,500. That's pretty darn good. 2,500 is so much better than 1 or 5, isn't it? It's not enough. It's not nearly enough. We need to do this faster. Okay, we need to do this in a speedy fashion. If you're parents, you know what I'm talking about. We have children. If you're grandparents, you know what I'm talking about. Excuse me. Now, connecting. 2,000, this needs to be 20,000, 200,000, 2 million. It's the start. It's better than not starting anything. The enemy, as I said, they have been setting the stage, they have been indoctrinating, they have been putting these databases with their front NGOs and foundations. They can press a button and unite and mobilize their Antifa or BLM and all that anti-American despicable crap. We have nothing. We have put together nothing, okay? None of those foundations or NGOs or databases where we can mobilize, because believe me, had we done this, we would have had sanctuary states by now for our Constitution. Because I know there are tens of millions of mothers out there who are like me and saying, not for my child. I am American and you are not taking it away from my child or from me. Our rights, our human rights. We didn't put it together while they did for 30, 40 years. It's not too late, but we have very little time. Join me from places that are ripe to be sanctuary states for our Constitution. They may declare me, I don't know, radical, insurrectionist, redneck. Oh, there's another word here for it, crackers and cracker and white supremacist, even though I'm kind of yellowish. I mean, they're going to do all of that. They're going to take this channel away. So please, let us unite. Let us work together. Fuami.org. I'm going to put the link there. It's not about only Florida. It's not only about some mask and COVID. It's not about some petition and one governor. Don't you see what I'm trying to do here? I'm trying to do something that there are some very few people trying to do. They are like me, you know? How do we unite people? How we connect them? Because there are millions, tens of millions of us. Let this be a start. The beginning point of our path towards defending our Constitution, prevailing in doing so, and living in the way we are supposed to be living, the American way. whether it's our businesses, whether it's our family values and parental rights. How much crap can we be taking sitting back? You know, it is this thing that's been happening for 20, 30 years, right? We keep ending up in this defensive position. They attack and start taking away rights, gun rights, parental rights, you name it, right? We retreat and then we put our hands up like this, trying to defend and fend it off. Then they have a break, pause, then they come again, same thing. So we keep going backwards and we are doing this. It is time to go on the offense. It's enough of being defensive. This is not one of those situations where you turn the other cheek. It's about your children being raped. They are being deprived of humanity. This is not time. This is not the time to play the defensive and sit back and do this. There are tens of millions of us. And the law, the only law, the only set of laws that counts that's on our side is what we are defending. Boot them out, these Karens who are coming and bullying us and bribing our officials in our states to do what they want, to turn these few states into hell, destroy them permanently. Okay. You see, every time I start, before I click this thing, the remote thing for playing and start recording, I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't want to get too fired up. I don't want to get too fiery, even though it is so against my nature. My nature goes back to Greece and Turkey, the Mediterranean, hot-blooded, and then add to that the Middle Eastern side. It's hard for me not to get fired up when the situation calls for being fired up, but still, it's a losing proposition. Every time I start by saying, okay, I'm gonna try to be like really mellow and just convey the points, and hopefully people understand what I'm saying and we can take actions. But so many things bottled up. Last Thursday, I came out of, well, I was forcibly removed. I was not dragged, but I was like escorted out of the store while this woman, Karen, despicable Karen, was fingering me, saying I'm a killer because I'm not wearing a mask, and she was violating the distancing mandates. Pepper spray. That's what we need to do. Not time for turning the other cheek. This is not one of those situations. But I came and I told my family, I said, way past time to get divorced. We can't live in one place. There are people who see what kind of hell their states have become, and they come here seeking more freedom, and they're good people and they are welcome. Like me, I did that. I picked Florida. I came from Oregon. And then there are people who need to be shipped back to where they came from. We cannot have these people here. Carry your pepper spray, and they violate you. Engage in self-defense. Don't let them bully you and take over your states. Take over our states. We need to have sanctuary constitutional states. America. I've been doing this for 20 years. And those of you who've known me for the past 20 years, you know that I don't usually talk in these clear, precise, crystal way of action item things. I give possibilities. I tell people to think about stuff. I used to inform them. I'm telling you, my belief, my personal belief, and I know millions of you out there, you agree with that. All is left for us to get it done. Florida, South Dakota, North Dakota, Idaho. We need to become sanctuary states for our United States of America's Constitution and our American way of life, for our children, for our grandchildren, for our work, for our businesses. Our country has been invaded. It's been under attack nonstop. Join me, contact me, reach out. Joinfuami.org, FUAMI.org. It starts, that's the first step, and we don't have years, we have weeks, months. Let us get united and go into the offense mode. Enough of playing the defensive and keep losing ground. Okay? Enough of that. Thank you for putting up with this long session. And thank you, all of you who have been out there, okay, really in action, standing for our freedom, for our rights, for our Constitution. There are so many of you. I'm thanking you, and I want to unite with you, okay? We are not alone. There are tens of millions of us. Let's get together, fuami.org. Let's get this ball rolling. We need our sanctuary constitutional states. Let's do it, because together we can. United, we will win.